Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it is your first time here. My name is Jess. I upload videos once a week, usually bookish content with a little bit of lifestyle and travel occasionally thrown in for good measure. And for today's video, which you will hopefully have seen from the title, I'm going to be doing an unboxing. I am working with a box of stories for the purposes of this video, and I will talk a little bit more about who a box of stories are in a minute. And then I also have a small stack of books to haul for the month of January as well. My box of stories has been sitting in quarantine for a week, which has to be the most pandemic thing I think I've said in a while, and I'm going to unbox it for you right now. But first things first, I'll just tell you a little bit about who a box of stories are. So if you are not familiar, they are a UK book subscription box, and their mission is basically to get lesser known books into the hands of readers like you and like me. Time for some statistics. Over 200,000 books are published in the UK every single year, but only 17% of those get a decent marketing budget, therefore getting hype around them, therefore landing on the best sellers list. So what happens to the 83% of the other books, which are potentially amazing and incredible, but we just don't hear about them? That's where a box of stories comes in. They have basically designed an algorithm which looks at well-known book review sites, it looks at critic reviews and a bunch of other things to curate a list of lesser known titles, and it's those books that they put into their subscription boxes. So you get 4 books in each box. You can choose from a variety of boxes. You can narrow it down by genre, so they have historical fiction, crime thriller, YA, or you can go from mixed bag. They guarantee that you will never receive the same book twice, and you also have full flexibility, so you can choose to have a box every month, or you can choose to have a box every 2, 3 or 4 months depending on your appetite as a reader. You can change up your boxes, so one month you could have historical fiction and then the next time you could have YA. It's entirely up to you, and you can also pause or cancel your subscription at any time. So it's kind of a double surprise for me because I'm not sure what box I've got. It's either YA or mixed fiction, and then obviously I don't know what's inside. I haven't even opened it yet. And just before I unbox it, I do have an affiliate link which I will leave in the description bar down below, which basically gets you £4 off your first box, so do go and check that out. But right now, let's unbox. Oh, excited. Okay, so here are my books. I must have been sent mixed fiction because they do not look like YA books. So first of all, I get a little card that basically explains a little bit more about what the box of stories is and the subscription power that you have. So you can swap across boxes anytime, pause anytime, as many times as you like, choose your box frequency. Ooh, unlock a surprise gift with every 3rd box. Very, very exciting. Okay, so on to the books. I can tell you that I have not heard of any of these, so that's a pretty good start, isn't it? The first book that we have is In My House by Alex Hoursten, I'm going to say. So this is domestic noir. Maggie lives a life of careful routines and measured pleasures, but everything changes when, walking through Gatwick Airport, she is approached by a young woman who whispers a single word: help. Maggie's actions save Anya from her brutal trafficker. However, when the story runs in a newspaper, Maggie is panicked by the publicity and the strange phone calls she begins to receive. Then Anya makes contact and quickly insinuates herself into Maggie's ordered life. That definitely sounds like something I would read, so that is a good start. The next one I'm gonna say is probably not something that I would pick up. I already have made a judgment about what type of book this is. It's A Distant Harbour by Jessica Blair. It doesn't look like the typical book that I would read. Let's see what it says on the back. A story of seafaring men and the women who love them by the author of The Red Shawl. Captain David Fernley has made and lost a fortune in the whaling trade, but his life as he knows it crumbles all around him when his erring wife and best friend die in a terrible accident at sea. David's self-destructive need to seek revenge consumes him in a story that sweeps through Whitby, the Arctic, London, Nova Scotia and the Pacific as David follows the only life he knows, whaling. A stirring tale of adventure and love on the high seas. I mean, mean, it sounds quite interesting. As I say, it isn't a book that I would typically, it's not the type of book that I would typically reach for. I'm going to be honest, I am a cover buyer, especially if it's an author that I don't recognise or haven't, you know, a title that I've not heard about. But maybe I'll give it a go. I do want to do a little bit more of those first 100 pages type challenges to see if I can get into books. So yeah, one to add to the perhaps pile. Okay, next we have A Girl's Best Friend by Jules Wake. Welcome to your new cottage in the country, complete with grumpy vet, village gossip, and one lolloping, very muddy dog. City girl Ella wants to take refuge in the country, lick her wounds, and work out what she's going to do with the rest of her life. She certainly doesn't want to have a four-legged houseguest or anything to do with village life. Unfortunately, the inhabitants of Willsgrave have other ideas. This looks like it's going to be a romance. It looks like it's going to be a cozy, feel-good, heartwarming book. It says in the back, perfect for fans of Trisha Ashley and Katie Fjord. I do like having this type of book to hand, so this is definitely one that I will give a go. Again, not one that I have come across before, so certainly interested to give it a go. And then the last book that I have here, I kind of recognise the cover of this, but I don't think that I've seen it. Oh, it's all mangled on the front. It's The Doll Funeral by Kate Hamer. I mean, it says she's the author of The Girl in the Red Coat, so I'm wondering if the cover of The Girl in the Red Coat is similar to this, because it does, or perhaps I've just seen it in the book world. But yeah, it definitely looks like one I've seen before. So this says, my name is Ruby. I live with Barbara and Mick. They're not my real parents, but they tell me what to do and what to say. But there are things I won't say. I won't tell them I'm going to hunt for my real parents. I don't say a word about Shadow, who sits on the stairs, or the wasp lady I saw, or that I'm a hunter for lost souls. I'm going to be with my real family, and I won't let anyone else stop me. Ooh, now that sounds intriguing, doesn't it? I don't know, is it like a thriller? A secret so chilling. Hamer's ability to conjure an atmosphere is certainly powerful. Ooh, I don't know whether that's going to come across and be, don't know whether that's going to be too creepy. But yeah, definitely one that I'm intrigued by. And again, not one, although I think I recognise the cover, it's not one that I am massively familiar with. So there you go, they are the 4 books in my subscription box. Obviously, of the 4 that I have received, there's probably only one question mark, and that would be A Distant Harbour, which is just because it's not typically a book that I would reach for. But I'm certainly intrigued. As I say, I'm pretty confident this is the mixed fiction box. So if you wanted to avoid getting a genre that you are not a massive fan of, you can obviously narrow your selection down, so only go for historical fiction or only go for crime, thriller. But yeah, I am pleased with my selection and intrigued by the books that I have received. So thank you very much to A Box of Stories. As I say, I'll leave my affiliate link in the description bar down below if you want to go and have a look at those. Now I'm going to move on to a small pile of books that I have purchased, and basically we all can blame Ali from the Sunday Feeling on Instagram for this purchase, because she shared a site and she said, oh, they've got such and such a book on there and it's really cheap. And so I went on to have a look, and Meg, who is my 11-year-old daughter, if you're not familiar, has been asking to read The Hunger Games, and we're fine with her reading it, but we realised that somewhere along the line we've lost our copy of the final book in the trilogy. So when I went onto the site and I saw that they had The Hunger Games and they had them in these incredible fluorescent covers, I immediately thought, yes, I'll buy those. And then obviously I wanted to make my purchase worthwhile, so I had a look at some other books and I ended up with 4 other books to buy. So really we can blame Ali for mentioning the site and then Megan for wanting to read The Hunger Games. So yes, we have these gorgeous fluorescent covers. Obviously we have The Hunger Games, then we have Mockingjay, and then Catching Fire. Gosh, they are reflecting the light an awful lot. But then I also picked up Rules of Civility by Immortals, Immortals being the author of A Gentleman in Moscow, which was one of my favourite books of last year, if not my favourite book of last year, if not one of my favourite books of all time. So this is historical fiction. It's set in 1937 about a girl called Katie, and it says there are certain things that Katie knew: how to sneak into a cinema and steal silk stockings from vendors, how to type 80 words a minute, 5,000 an hour, 9 million a year, and that if you can still lose yourself in a Dickens novel, then everything is going to be fine. By the end of the year, she'd learned how to live like a redhead and insist upon the very best, that riches can turn to rags in the trip of a heartbeat, chance encounters can be fated, and the word yes can be a poison. The thing that I loved about A Gentleman in Moscow was Amortal's writing style, so I'm very excited to try this one out, and hopefully it will be just as fantastic as A Gentleman in Moscow, so one to add to the list. Then I also picked up The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss, which is book 2. I think it's the King Killer's Chronicles. I think that's what the title is called. So the first book in that series is The Name of the Wind, which I own. James has read and listened to all of the books that have thus far been released, and he says they're great. So when I saw this, and it was super cheap, it was only a couple of pounds, I thought I may as well get it because I know that I will read them. The issue that I have, and the reason that I haven't read them yet, is because all the books have not been released, and I feel like I'm going to fall into the same trap as I did with Game of Thrones, which is that they're massive books full of characters and rich plot and world building, and I'm going to get totally sucked in, and then I'll be utterly disappointed that I cannot continue with the series. So I'm trying to hold off for as long as possible until either the series is concluded or just a good number of the books have been released. Don't know too much about it other than that it is fantasy, that it's very richly character driven. Pretty much all that I need to know. I did start listening to, and I've said this countless times on my channel, I did start listening to The Name of the Wind a couple of years ago, and got probably 10% of the way in, but it was just so complex that I couldn't listen and do other things. I ended up just standing still and listening, so I thought I'll put it to one side for now and wait, but always good to have a book to hand. So yeah, just one to add to the list. Then we have The Baltimore Boys by Joel Dicker. This is a sequel, I think, to The Truth About the Harry Quebert Affair by Joel Dicker. I read that last year. I actually have a reading vlog about me reading it if you want to go and check that out. I will link it up here and down below. So this is about the protagonist from that book, Mark Goldman, and his two cousins, Woody and Hillel. It says 3 brilliant young men with dazzling futures ahead of them before they met Alexandra Neville, before their kingdom crumbled beneath the weight of lies, jealousy and betrayal. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed The Truth About the Harry Quebert Affair. Fully expected to enjoy this one as well. And then the final book that I picked up was just one that happened to take my fancy, and that is Take Nothing With You by Patrick Gale. Now I know the name Patrick Gale, but I've never read any of his books, but I read the synopsis of this and just thought that it sounded really interesting. So it says, Eustace, an only child, is leading a strange existence in a house full of elderly adults. His life changes dramatically with the arrival of Carla Gold, his cello teacher, who casts a heady spell over everyone, including his mother. As Eustace makes new friends through music, he also learns harsh lessons of love, survival and resilience, setting him up for life. That's actually quite vague, but yeah, it just thought that it sounded rather interesting and one to add to the list. So there you go. Thank you very much to A Box of Stories for sending me their subscription box, and also I hope that you enjoyed the small stack of books that I have added to my ever-growing TBR this month. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give me the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, leave me a comment, let me know if you have read any of the books I've hauled and what you thought about them. As always, I hope that you are all keeping safe and well, and I will see you all soon.